In the evening, the lake looked harmless. The Sea of Galilee often does, a broad bowl of water cupped by hills that glow with the last light. Fishermen rinsed their nets, families settled into the cool of dusk, and a small group of disciples climbed into a boat with the teacher who had filled their day with parables. He said, "Let us go across to the other side." It sounded like an invitation to rest. It was also a lesson that would be written in water and wind. They pushed off, the oars dipped and rose. A breeze moved from the cliffs and stroked the surface into small ripples. On the cushion near the stern, Jesus found a place and closed his eyes. He had given himself to crowds all day, healing the broken, answering traps with wisdom, telling stories that smuggled eternity in simple images. Tiredness is not faithlessness. Even the Word made flesh slept. The lake is shallow and surrounded by ridges. Cold air can plunge down the gullies, smack the warm surface, and spin up a storm in minutes. Seasoned men know this. Still, the speed at which calm becomes chaos can surprise even seasoned men. A shudder ran through the boat, first as a tremor, then as a throe. Waves stood up and slapped the hull. The sky erased its stars. The wind found its teeth. They bailed and shouted instructions learned from childhood. Tie that rope, trim the sail, shift the weight. The storm answered with more water. Spray needled their faces. The boat dropped into a trough and rose again like a startled animal. Someone said the word that fishermen hate to say at night, sinking. Their minds ran ahead to dark water closing overhead. Fear loves to write our endings early, and in the stern the teacher slept. It is not contempt for danger. It is a different reading of reality. The disciples woke him with the vocabulary of panic. "Master, do you not care that we are perishing?" Beneath the spray and the thunder, that question sounds familiar. It is the question that storms try to teach us to ask. Do you care? The storm claims to be the only honest teacher of truth. It says, if God cared, you would not be here. Jesus rose. He did not lecture the wind with a thesis. He spoke like a man addressing a disobedient dog. Peace, be still. The words were short enough to be lost in the gusts, and yet the lake heard them. The wind folded like a sheet. The waves stopped arguing. The sentence, thrown into the storm, rearranged reality. In the sudden quiet, their hearts pounded louder than the water had. Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith? His questions were not a scold delivered to humiliate sailors. They were scalpel questions, cutting to the place where fear had nested. He did not ask, why did you try to save yourselves? He asked, why did fear interpret my sleep as indifference? Faith and fear both interpret facts. They are not blind, they read, but they do not read the same way. They said to one another, who then is this, that even wind and sea obey him? That sentence is the hinge of the story. The storm is not the central character. It is a mirror the narrative holds up to reveal who Jesus is. Creation recognizes the voice that spoke it into existence. The molecules that carried rain and surge remember the syllables that called them from nothing. The one in the boat is not a teacher who knows a technique. He is the Word whose words do not fail. Let us pause and walk slowly through the layers. First, fear. It tightens the lens until only threat remains in frame. Storms compress imagination around the worst possible future and rehearse it in advance. The disciples feared the lake they had mastered for years because the lake discovered the one night they were outmatched. We often discover our limits the hard way. Faith does not deny the limits, it remembers the Lord of the limits. Second, presence. Jesus was in the boat. This is not a metaphor that erases pain. It is a fact that reorders panic. Presence does not always remove pressure immediately. Sometimes it sleeps through the first wave to expose what we expect from God. Do we expect Him to prevent all storms, or do we expect His authority to matter inside storms? Third, authority. When He spoke, the storm did not debate. The narrative gives us no negotiation, no stage show, no bargain. It is simple. He spoke and creation obeyed. That is not because storms are moral agents. It is because the one who made boundaries speaks and boundaries reform. Water that leapt beyond its line returns to its place. Wind that left its lane slips back in obedience. The story is a creation moment compressed in a few seconds. Fourth, discipleship. He asks, "Why are you so afraid?" That is not the same as "Why are you in danger?" He does not shame their skill. He questions their conclusion. If my word sent you across, will a storm revoke the invitation? Faith is not a refusal to row or bail. It is the refusal to believe that the wind has the final word about our destination. Fifth, memory. Earlier that day, He had spoken parables about seeds and soil. Faith grows quietly like grain and then suddenly shows itself. This storm was a test, not of talent, but of root depth. The first gusts often do not uproot us. The repeated ones try to. Deep root comes from hearing His word and letting it sink past the surface predictions of fear. This is where the narrative becomes an explainer for your own life. You may not ride a boat on Galilee, but you know sudden weather. The phone call that erases a plan, the scan that changes a calendar, the conversation that splinters a friendship, the bill that leaks like rain into the house. Storms are not rare, they are resident. Your mind becomes the lake, your breath becomes the spray, your sleep becomes the stern cushion that never quite welcomes you. What does this story offer? Not a guarantee that God will stop every storm on your schedule. It offers a person whose presence, promise, and power alter the terms. You are not promised a life above weather. You are promised a Lord within weather. His questions still cut with kindness. Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith? They are not shouts from the shore. They are whispers from the stern. How do we practice this? Begin by naming the wind. Anxiety is loud and vague. Name it and it loses scatter. Say, I am afraid of losing control of this project. I am afraid of this result. I am afraid of that conversation. Naming is not surrender, it is diagnosis. Then place the name beside a larger name, not as a charm, but as an alignment. You are not dialoguing with weather, you are conferring with the one who commands it. Next, locate the word that sent you across. Sometimes it is a promise in scripture. Sometimes it is a calling you cannot shake. Sometimes it is the simple directive to love your neighbour with patience and truth today. If He said, go to the other side, then the storm is not the vote that counts. Our assignment is not cancelled by surprise conditions. Remember that He slept. That does not mean He is absent. It means He is not worried. To follow Him is to learn the art of a calm centre in moving weather. Calm is not denial. It is confidence in the one who knows the bottom of the lake and the number of gusts left in the storm. Consider the skills in the boat, rowing, tying ropes, reading waves. These matter. Jesus did not scold competence. He scolded conclusions. Keep using your skills, keep bailing water, keep steering, but let those actions be the expression of faith, not the rituals of panic. Work as if the one who commands weather is awake, even when He is resting. Let me speak to those who have prayed for a long time with little change. The narrative includes a delay long enough for fear to bloom. Delays are classrooms. They reveal what we think God must do to prove He cares. They also reveal whether we have tied our peace to immediate outcomes or to enduring presence. Sometimes the storm is loud because our trust is thin. Sometimes it is loud because the lesson must be heard above habits that have kept us small. If this podcast has been meaningful to you so far, please like, comment, share, and subscribe so this hope can reach someone else who needs it today. Back on the lake, the surface smoothed to a mirror. Torches from the shoreline pricked the dark. You could almost hear fish whisper again under the boat. The disciples stared at Jesus longer than they stared at the water. Fear of drowning had given way to a different fear, holy awe. They had catalogued his wisdom, his kindness, his power over sickness. Now they added weather to the list of things that listened when he spoke. Think of what it means to live with that awareness. It does not mean storms stop surprising you. It means surprise no longer controls you. It means your first sentences become different. Not I am doomed, but I am accompanied. Not this is the end, but this is where he proves again who he is. Your body may still shake. Your stomach may still loop. But beneath those waves, a keel of trust holds the line. There is a detail that lives between the lines. He did not say to the storm, "Calm down so my friends will feel better." He spoke to honor the will of the Father and to keep the mission moving. The other side was not optional. On that far shore waited a man tormented beyond the help of chains. A mission to one tormented soul was worth crossing a stormy night. When the storm tried to hold them, the word released them again to love the next person. That is how storms work in the life of anyone who follows him. They are not simply about you. They test whether you will reach the person on the other side who needs the hope you carry. If you stop in the middle, the storm wins two battles, yours and the one you were sent to fight for someone else. Keep going because someone on the far shore is already counting on the God you bring with you. Another layer. The disciples asked a